Hi everyone, for today's tutorial I'm going to be showing you how easy it is to pipe these three beautiful floral styled cupcakes, including the leopard print on the right hand side. Everything you need to know in a simple step-by-step format. I'm going to show you each piping nozzle in detail, as well as including my buttercream recipe. As always, everything you need to know step by step, and if you like what you see, please give it a share everyone. Thank you all for your amazing support, and let's make a start. I start by sealing each of the cupcake with a small amount of buttercream just on the top. This does two things. When you pipe your flour, you will not be able to see any of the cupcake underneath. And secondly, it will also protect the cupcake from going dry, as there is an extra layer of buttercream. The first piping nozzle you will need is the 1M. Now this is made in many different brands. The brand here is by Colour Mill. However, the other brands will look exactly the same and leave you with the same result. If you are completely new to piping, this is how you place them in a disposable piping bag. Simply trim off the end and then place the piping tip directly in there. You may need to adjust this slightly and trim off just a little bit more. If you then wrap the disposable piping bag over a tall glass, it allows you to fill it an awful lot easier. I start by filling this with a simple white buttercream, pushing out all of those air bubbles, but make sure your bag is no more than half full, just so you have full control. Starting in the centre of your covered cupcake and gently going around in a circular motion. This is not about speed. You want to focus on keeping the consistency even. So as you're squeezing the piping bag, try to keep that the same as you go around in this circular motion all the way to the end. When you get to the end, simply flick away. That's our first piped cupcake. You now want to make sure those cupcakes are in the fridge so that the buttercream can go hard and crust over. Here I have a palette, a couple of fine brush. Now for painting, the luster dusts are best as they do not leak. The ready-made food colouring can be used, but due to some of the condensation, it does leak slightly. For the dust, I simply mix it with a small amount of clear alcohol. The reason it doesn't leak as much as the water-based food colouring is because the alcohol evaporates a lot faster, leaving behind just the dust. So this has been speeded up, but this is the super easy part. All you do now is paint on really randomly each individual part of the pink. You then want to allow this to dry before we add the outer edges in black. Now I've skipped parts of this out and then I've slowed down where I am painting just so that you can see how well it goes onto the chilled buttercream. If your buttercream starts to get a little soft, just simply place this back in the fridge for a short period of time. Remember, you now want to allow this to set and then we can add the black. This is using the ready-made edible paint. I simply then go along each side randomly again on the pink blobs that I've just added directly to this cupcake. I'm going to speed this up slightly for you. I only paint 3 here on camera. You will notice what I mean about this bleeding just a little bit more. Remember, this is a water-based ready-made edible paint. If you have an edible black luster dust, you would be able to make your own paint using some clear alcohol, and it would end up just like the pink did directly on here. It really is as simple and as easy as that to get a leopard print styled cupcake. I'm now going to show you my buttercream recipe. Start by using 200 grams of Leopard. I find this is one of the more softer butters to pipe with. You will also need to measure out in a separate bowl 300 grams of icing sugar. If you are in the US, I believe this is known as powdered sugar. Place your measured butter directly into your mixer and beat on high. Once it looks like this, simply add your measured icing sugar to the mixture. I then like to mix this in to prevent it all coming back out of the bowl, and beat on high again until it's all mixed together and it's light and fluffy. I then add exactly 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. I love Nelson Master. It's more expensive, but the flavour is beautiful. And alongside this, 1 level tablespoon of hot water. This will give the buttercream the perfect consistency. And this is the end result. Now, I haven't added any whitener, so if you want a white buttercream, there is a separate recipe on the channel. For our next cupcake, you will need the Wilton 2D piping tip. Simply place this in a disposable piping bag and wrap this over a tall glass. You then want to go around the inner sides of this with a dark raspberry pink buttercream. This is going to allow us to have a two-toned rose. You then want to simply fill the centre with some white buttercream and remember to only keep the piping bag half full. So again, starting in the centre of the cupcake and keeping the pressure on the piping bag even, simply go around in a circular motion until you get to the outer edge. This is when you want to flick away. Place this in the fridge. Using Wilton 109, we're going to make those extra flowers. On some baking paper, gently squeeze and twist. I then place a sprinkle in the centre and add this to the freezer. Using a separate piping bag, just pipe a little blob of green buttercream directly on your rose. And when you take these flowers out of the freezer, you will be able to physically handle them and place them on your stunning cupcake. Simply repeat this with the other 2 pieces. Finally, using piping tip 349, you just want to add some extra leaves, just like I do here. It really is as simple and as easy as that. For the final cupcake, I've used some Wilton Leaf Green to colour this buttercream. It's also the same buttercream that I've just used on the previous cupcake for the leaves. Now, just like we did with the other cupcakes, this time though in green, because there's going to be more of a green background, I simply cover the top of the cupcake with the buttercream. Remember, this will help protect the cupcake from going dry. Using piping tip 366, this is the large leaf nozzle, I simply go around the outside of the cupcake. Take your time doing this. So you want to apply some even pressure, gently squeeze the piping bag and pull away. Try to get the leaves all of the same length, and then just to protect this cupcake, it's best to place it in the fridge to allow these leaves to go nice and hard. It'll only take a few minutes for the actual buttercream to set, so it's not in the fridge for long. Just before we pipe the flower in the centre. This will always help prevent damage to any of your piped buttercream cupcakes by just refrigerating for a few minutes in between. Now, using the same piping tip, and you can see that I've got it horizontally on the base, you want to fill 2 of the sides with a colour of your choice. So I'm just using the white buttercream. I'm then simply going to add pink to the centre, but what this will do, it will give that beautiful two-toned effect in the right areas when I actually pipe the flower in the centre of the cupcake. So here you can see me add the pink buttercream to the centre of the piping bag. And remember, with all of your piping bags, you don't want them any more than half full. You need full control over it. I have placed myself an indentation in the centre. I've just used a piping tip to do this. You then simply want to keep the pressure even, but unlike the leaves on the outside, these ones want to be really long. So gently squeeze, pull away. Remember, we've chilled this cupcake as well, so it's all protected. And you want them to come quite far out, but don't go way over the actual green leaves, because those are going to be supporting these just until they set. Using piping tip number 81, this is a U shape. We're now going to go around that rim just inside the flower. Gently squeeze and pull away, and it will leave you with these stunning little petals just on the inside. Now, you will have seen this being featured in other tutorial content. It is becoming one of my most used piping tips when it comes to flowers. Just go around the rim, but leave the center empty. So to fill the center, I just use a round number 2 piping tip. However, you could easily cut the end off a piping bag if you do not have this in your collection, and it just adds the perfect finishing touch. And there we have it. It really is as simple and as easy as that. Now, the buttercream recipe in this is extremely important. Getting the right consistency with your buttercream will always help when it comes to using the piping tips. No matter what brand you are using, the buttercream matters. In this content, we have also only used 2 different colours, so if you don't have many pro gels in your collection yet, it doesn't matter. It just goes to show you how easy these cupcakes are to create. Happy baking, everyone. I really do hope I've helped you again today, and I'll be back soon with an awful lot more new, completely free content.